everyone, this is Dodie Williams, and I'm here to show you my recent Graphics Fairy Junk Journal Team Design project. And if you want to skip ahead a little bit, I'm just going to tell you a little tiny story. My great-grandfather was the Oriental freight agent for the Chicago, Milwaukee, St. Paul Railroad in 1920, and he was tasked with relations between Japan and the United States for that particular railroad, and he also went on a sort of like a buying tour for the railroad in 1922, and as a result he brought back many family treasures like this this cloisonne box. And in fact, I'm going to put this just to the side for a second. In fact, he also wrote this wonderful letter to his wife while he was on the ship going over. She finally joined him at some point, but he was there for some time as he pursued his buying trip. And here's a picture of them in Japan in 1922. That's my great-grandfather and my great-grandmother. And as a result, our family has many Japanese treasures. And my mother my great-grandfather was a major opera buff, and my mother became an opera buff, and her favorite opera was Madame Butterfly. So using the bundles from the Graphics Fairy, the Japanese Watercolors, Japanese Garden bundle, Asian Inspired bundle, and some other bundles, I have created this Madame Butterfly journal. And I challenged myself with this journal because I don't do the long, thin journals very well. I have a lot of trouble with them. They're very frustrating for me. But I thought, you know, part of this junk journal team journey has been trying to explore different kinds of journals, the different ways to make journals, learning different techniques from the journals. I've learned from my teammates different techniques. And so what I've done here is I've taken an old, the cover is constructed from a lace card from probably about the late 1940s, and they make wonderful tall, thin journal covers, and it's folded in half, and I've covered it with a little bit of fabric here. The spine is covered in muslin with some sari silk flurries, I call them. And what I've done is I've taken one of the Graphics Fairy, this is my favorite Graphics Fairy butterfly, and this actually comes from the main Graphics Fairy blog website, but she's a beautiful geisha in a rickshaw, and I just had to put her on the cover because if you're familiar at all with the opera Madame Butterfly, she's a geisha, and in the story of the opera, she falls in love with a Western gentleman and has a child with him, and then he goes away and he comes back and brings his wife that he's married, and they want to take the child away from Butterfly. And it's a beautiful opera. It's written by Puccini, and it was my mother's favorite opera. So I'm going to open up the journal and I'm going to show you what I came up with for my Madame Butterfly junk journal. And here we go. So to begin, I did purchase some Madame Butterfly ephemera, and one of them was a Madame Butterfly program, and I did copy it onto tea-stained paper and made a little pocket, and in the front pocket I took the one of the fan designs from one of the, I think it's either Japanese Watercolors or Japanese Garden bundle, and I did create a little fan, and it folds up very nicely into the fan shape, and I think it just looks so pretty in that pocket. And here's one of the printables. I did stamp a stamp right there, and excuse me, I don't know if that's Japanese or Chinese, but there were stamps that I had from way back, and a little cute little envelope. Now, this geisha sewing is probably my main theme of the journal because she reappears often in in these pages. Of course, I did design my own digital papers to fit into this journal, and you turn the page. This comes from the geisha sheet music. I took it off of there, and here are some birdies that, and this is some birdies in a branch. There, I just love this image. I love this paper. And this is a haiku that I've actually typed out in Japanese, and it's from their very famous haiku artist. I wanted to put this haiku in because it was written by one of the most famous haiku poetry artists. His name was Kobayashi Nobuki, and he lived in the 1700s. And so I wanted to put the English version of this haiku because it's so beautiful. It's the world of dew is only a world of dew, and yet. And I loved it so much, but then I did some research, and while this haiku is out of copyright because it's so old, the translation is not. So I had to put it in Japanese. But it's a lovely, lovely haiku. The other thing I added to this journal, throughout the journal, is lots of authentic Japanese ephemera. Here's another one of my papers that I designed with the bird. Just very simple on a piece of tea-stained paper, but this sort of flips out, and I did have these geisha photos that I just think are so lovely, and I stuck a little envelope behind her. And now this image comes from the Art Institute's free use Creative Commons website. They have a lot of lovely Japanese artwork that you can use on there. And I did make, what I found in making these tall journals, to really have them work properly, you need to set off the top and the bottom. For instance, I've put a little piece at the bottom here, and then I took and made a cluster out of some lovely Japanese ephemera, and sewed it together very simply. This little bird stamp is old, and it is precious. And it's the only one I had. I mean, and I don't have the stamp. It came to me that way. And turning this page, here's another image from the Art Institute, and here's a real pressed columbine. And I made a vellum envelope out of some music paper and an image of a cherry blossom from one of the Asian kits, and just put in a piece of tea-stained paper to write on, right in there like that. And I'm just going to take that out right now. It just sticks back there. Now here is my Madame Butterfly program that I had, and I did copy it out onto my tea-stained paper because it was actually about this color, the program. I didn't want to use the real piece of ephemera because it was so crumbly. Folding it up like this would have destroyed it. So I did copy it, but it makes a wonderful journaling spot. And I did stamp one of my little Japanese stamps down there. And here is another one of the clusters I made, and I just added it to this page. This is another page using the pretty cherry blossoms and one of my favorite dragonflies. I had to have a dragonfly, right? And I took another one of the printable fans, and I just printed out this fan. They're just really lovely. They print so nicely and turn into a fan shape, and they just look so pretty folded up. And here is another cluster made from Japanese ephemera, real Japanese ephemera, just lovely stuff. And it just is paper clipped to this page, so you could definitely have there's a lot of writing space in this journal, but it looks so pretty with the fan to offset the height of the page. Now this paper, and I did have this was paper clipped in here. I don't know why it came off. It should look like that. This paper right here is from Medieval Spring, and I love this paper. I've used it several times, but it has a very Japanese Asian feel to it. And this is one of the images from the Graphics Fairy blog website, and I did use some colorization, and I printed her on a postcard. Here's one of my Asian stamps, and I did put it on there with a piece of Japanese ephemera. This is a lovely, the paper is just so delicate, but it's strong. I tried to rip some of these papers, and I had to cut them. They are so strong. So this is probably real rice paper, not like the paper you can get on Amazon. It really is very durable. Now this is the beginning right here of a three-way pocket. The first part of this pocket, I have placed a paper cluster. This comes from a Japanese novel. This is more of that Japanese novel. Here's some blank pages. Here's a piece of paper, a piece of music, another notebook paper, and some blue dyed paper. And underneath this, there is a pocket that, and it's put in the pocket. I've got it on a piece of cardboard for strength, and you just place it in the pocket, and then the pocket opens up. And here's my sewing geisha again. She's one of my main themes in this journal. She's butterfly. I think of her as butterfly. And here's another piece of that super strong yet really delicate Japanese ephemera that I just find so fascinating, how completely strong it is and yet so thin. And I've made a little flip up of an image here, another one of my Art Institute images of these darling little birds. I don't know if you can see how cute they are. They're just darling. And this is a butterfly from one of the butterfly collections. I did list in the blog post all of the different bundles I used. And here's a little coffee stained bag with, this is another bit of ephemera I got in my Japanese ephemera kits, packets. And this is another stamp. I don't have this. It just came like this. I just love it. And here's another one of those super durable rice paper invoices. I think it's an invoice. I don't know for sure, but it's a very interesting document. And then if you take this and open it up, I have a very old, from 1928, Japanese postcard, which I just think, I have actually some more of these. I have 10 of them total. Isn't that really a fascinating document with more of the Japanese ephemera? It's so pretty. And here's a page with another cluster I made using ephemera and little bits of the papers I've been cutting out and using. And then when you open it up once again, there's the continuation of the pocket. And I'm going to tell you that my friend Carol Laws, I think, is the originator of this lovely trifold pocket. It's just a brilliant construction. I love it so much. But there's my geisha again. And here is actual music from Madame Butterfly. I think it's, I don't know which scene this is, but on the back it is blank, so it's great for journaling right there. And in this little sort of semi-page, I have an envelope flap over the page, which has a paper clip and another one of my 1928 Japanese postcards. I just think they're, with a real stamp on, it's just so beautiful. I love them. I'm gonna put that right there so that I can show you. When you turn the page, there's this envelope, and in it I've done another one of my Japanese postcards. I believe, I'm not sure if this is 1912. It might be 1928 again, but here's another one of the, it's like a Japanese receipt. It's very, very pretty. I'm gonna put that there and put my envelope back on there like that. I did take one of the envelopes and I embellished it with my the birds on a branch. I love them, and this beautiful butterfly. Now this paper is really lovely paper that I have had in my paper stash for, I think, oh my gosh, 20 years. maybe even longer. I actually think it's more like 30 years. I just love this paper. It's very crinkly. It's mulberry paper. It's kind of fragile because I had to tape it. But I just decided the paper was so pretty. I did a little tea bag art, and I refolded a tea bag. I'd filled it with lavender, so it does have a faint scent of lavender, the journal does. And when you open it, I took this lovely butterfly and put it in the middle. And I just think that's just makes a really wonderful statement right there in the middle of the journal. And I've reinforced the edges with some music washi tape. And then here I have one of the images from one of the Asian bundles. I think it's Japanese garden bundle. And here I think of this as butterfly looking out over the harbor. And I printed it on lined paper so that you could write on it easily. And then I just, I did paper clip it to the edge so it won't get all messed up. Now on this page, I made a pocket from some of my Japanese novels, and I used wax seals, and I painted all the little birds gold on these wax seals. So I did place some different pictures. Here's my geisha in her rickshaw again, and here's just a long journaling card. But I did construct this pocket that sort of folds. It's sort of an accordion pocket. They're just connected in the middle, and you can slide that in the back, and you can slide that in that pocket, and then you can slide that little girl down into that pocket. This is another one of the Art Institute images. And here's another one of my geisha pictures. They're so lovely with the words the geisha from the geisha music. And here's just some lovely music that's in one of the music bundles, and my lovely cherry blossom branch. Now here is one of my favorite little girls. She's so sweet. She reminds me of the Rumor Godden book, Miss Happiness and Miss Flower, that I read when I was a very little girl. And in this pocket, and I made it a pocket, and the pocket is sewn into the seam of the journal, so that, and before I glued the pocket shut, I sewed it in, and then I glued the pocket shut and turned it into a pocket. This is a real ginkgo leaf glued on there. And then when you turn, there's my favorite geisha again, and it's a flip so that you can, and she comes out with this journaling card, and she just fits in there like that. And up against, once again, she's up against the lovely medieval spring paper that reminds me of cherry blossoms in Japan. And here's some more Japanese ephemera on this page. Now, here's one of the little sweet lanterns from the Graphics Fairy bundles, and I just cut it out and just attached it in the middle of the page with just a little snippet of netting. And this is a really lovely image that I cut down to, it's wider, but I cut it down to fit into this journal. It's such a pretty image of a harbor, and it's lovely. It's really lovely, and it slides in there right there. So we're getting to the end of the book, and here's another butterfly anchored in the seam of the book, and yet another cluster that I've made with a butterfly and an Asian stamp and some Asian ephemera and a piece of napkin that I have been whacking away at. And there we go. We've reached the end. Lots of journaling opportunities. But I hope you like it. I hope you will maybe look into the opera Madame Butterfly. It's Puccini, and Puccini has, I think, the most melodic opera tunes around. I want to thank the Graphics Fairy for having me on this junk journal team. This is my last journal for this session, and maybe I'll be back. I really enjoyed it. It really pushed me, and it challenged me to try different kinds of journals that I would not have made. I especially want to thank Karen and Jane for being such supportive leaders, and Jane for all the hard work she does. I realize how much work it is to get these blog posts up and these journals up, and she is just wonderful, as well as being an amazing artist herself. So thank you, and I hope you enjoyed my Madame Butterfly journal, and goodbye.